Peace and blessings, everyone. Welcome to Spotlight here on JTV. I'm Ejuenka, and we have a very important program for you tonight. I have with me Acting Director of Culture, Mrs. Brenda Ledsamtai, and member of the Ad Hoc Committee on National Dress and National Song, Mrs. Sheila Brathwaite. And we are going to be talking about the National Dress and National Song. As you may know, the minister, in his endeavor to preserve our culture, decided that he wants to have a national dress and a national song. And we're in the process of a competition for persons to submit national dress wear and national song. We're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about the features the dress should have, the parameters of the dress and the song. And hopefully you can call and ask any questions you would like have answered concerning the competition and your ability to submit for the national dress or for the national song. We're going to be right back. I want you to call your friends and tell them that Spotlight is streaming live on jtvlive.net for those who are overseas and those without cable TV. Keep it locked right here to Spotlight. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
This program is sponsored by the law firm of J.S. Archibald & Co. and by the trust company J.S. Archibald Trust Services Limited, both of Roadtown, Tortola, BVI.
Welcome back to Spotlight. Yes, I'm here with Mrs. Ledsamtai and Mrs. Brathwaite. Welcome to Spotlight.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Cromwell.
Good to have you. Now, I already answered two of my questions, right? By saying why the minister decided to have a national dress and a national song. What do you all see as the function of having a national dress and a national song?
Well, I think it is all in keeping with the government's commitment to promote the Virgin Islands' cultural identity and to instill national pride. Everyone talks about how our young people don't have a real sense of belonging to the community. They're more influenced by, well, we're all more influenced by American culture. However, those of us who had that cultural upbringing from before, we still have that, but our young people haven't had that yet. So it's a way of giving them a sense of national identity through song and through dress.
How important is that for us to have a national song and a national dress? We have a national anthem. We we dress a particular way. How important is that for young people? What has that done for us, and what will that do for them?
Well, I think it would help them to realize who they are, help them to realize what their history is, what their culture is, and help them to be able to promote their own identity so that they don't have to be using the identity of other persons. I've seen where when there's a Culture Week, for instance, BV Islanders dress in quote-unquote cultural outfits. But at the same time, there are some who dress according to the country that their parents come from. And we want all BV Islanders, all nationals, to dress in what is cultural for the BVI. And it has to go back to our history, who we were, and we want to keep that history alive. We need to keep it alive.
Okay.
So that it will help our young people.
I was going to say keeping. I think sort of what you're asking. If you adopt something, it comes from the outside. However, once you understand the understanding of what it means for you, it comes from within. It's a much more powerful force. So if our young people understand that what we're trying to do is actually a part of who they are, they have just not been aware of it or exposed to it, but it is actually integral to who they are and their future development. It will be, I think, will be a powerful tool.
And all the persons living in the BVI would hopefully unite under one culture. a sort of like a melting pot, but in one culture? Is that the thought?
Well, essentially, when in Rome, you do as the Romans do. I mean, when I was in Canada, I spent many years in Canada. I had to sing the Canadian national anthem. If it was a matter of cultural dress, I had to wear the Canadian cultural dress because this is what the country represents. Now, for the Canadian, that has profound meaning. But being a sojourner in their country, I was respectful and wore their dress and sang their national anthem. You know, it's a matter of respecting the culture in which you are living at that time.
Okay. Any particular style that we are looking to portray from a cultural perspective?
Well, if we go back into our history, we find that the slaves, and we were not keeping that slave mentality, but we find that they adopted the dress form of their masters, and the dress was up to their neck with elastic. In the past it was a 3/4 sleeve, and then that's the blouse, and then the skirt is a nice flowing, lots of material skirt, and there was always a petticoat underneath. So what we are asking is that the attire for the females be a head tie with a blouse, and you can design it, you know, how you wish. It must have a petticoat, and the petticoat has to be 9 inches to 12 inches longer than the skirt. The skirt must be flowing and billowing, you know, really nice.
Excuse me.
And then I'm going to just go ahead. The skirt has to have a solid background. One of the colors, one of the solid colors. The colors are red, white, blue, green, and yellow. Well, the white is for the petticoat. And on that solid background, you will design some kind of cultural form, whether it's plaiting tire, whether it's a coal pit, whether it's a brick oven. It could be one of the sloops. You know, we are famous for making our own boats and so on. And it could be a combination of those cultural items. It doesn't have to be just one. So it just depends.
Now, what form the hair tie should take? Is there any particular? Should it be a low hair tie, a high hair tie?
What do you mean?
I mean, you know, how is the hair? You say a hair tie.
Yes.
Can you design the hair tie to look how you want it to look? Because you know there's varying types of hair tie and various types of cultural perspectives.
Traditionally, we just use a triangle, but if people want to do a more fancy design, you know,
present the design.
Yeah, present whatever your design is.
Okay. Now you talked about the solid background. So the petticoat is supposed to be
white,
sewn on to the skirt.
No,
it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be.
So it's a separate garment.
It's a separate garment.
It's just longer.
It's longer.
Okay.
And we would also recommend that the petticoat not only be longer, but that it be decorated, whether it's with lace or rickrack or eyelets or eyelet material or whatever. And it should have that design at least up to the thigh, so that when if you're dancing, you may and you're swirling.
If you flare up the skirt,
you can see the petticoat. Yes, that's the idea.
And you're talking about so a person would conceivably then have to design
a petticoat,
a skirt, and draw and print the various these cultural designs on the material, on the fabric.
Yes. At this point, we expect it to be drawn
just
because it hasn't been stenciled. You know, it hasn't been fabricated with the design on. So we expected it can be painted on.
Yes.
It can be
just drawn in pencil,
drawn in pen,
colors,
whatever it is that they want to represent. Once that happens, the winning entry, that fabric, that skirt fabric, will then be replicated en masse.
Oh, okay. So the person doesn't have to submit the actual material, they just submit a drawing.
They could do a doll, dress a doll in the way that they would want to, you know, have the doll look. Sorry, with the material, with the design that they have come up with. So they can present a sample of what it should look like, but we are looking mainly for a drawing.
Okay. And the colors, you say?
Red for the feisty Virgin Islands nature, blue for the Caribbean Sea, green for our verdant hills, and yellow for the rising sun, and white, of course, for the petticoat. So the background could be red, it could be green, blue, or yellow.
So
for the skirt.
So you could choose, any of those colors for the background, and then you could choose any of those colors for the imprint.
And for the top and side.
And of course white for the petticoat. And so it's the attire is actually a 3-piece attire for the female, right? So
it's actually 4 pieces.
It's 4 pieces.
Yes.
It's a head tie, a skirt,
and there's a sash,
blouse, and a petticoat, and there's a sash for the female too?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now let me see. Okay.
And for the male.
And yes, for the male.
The male will use the same design that you use for the skirt, will be used to make the man's top.
So the blouse has to be white.
It doesn't have to be.
So the blouse will be any of the colors.
Any of the colors.
As long as it matches, is harmonious with the pattern and colors in the skirt. The blouse can be any of those colors.
Right. And then the man's top, whether it's a shirt or just a round neck or whatever you want to design it as, will be the material used would be that which is used for the skirt of the woman.
Okay.
Okay. And then the man will also have either a white or a black pair of pants, and then a sash.
Okay, so the man's gonna have a sash as well.
Yes.
Okay. And so the man's shirt, is there any particular design parameter that you have to follow?
The same design that you have for the skirt is the same. It's the same material, the same design material. Everything will be used for the man's shirt.
But I mean the style.
For the style of the shirt, no. We don't have a particular.
I mean, the whole point of this competition, I think people have sort of gotten stuck in the notion of the heritage dancer costume, and that's what that is. It's a dance costume. It's not a national dress or wear. So there is no preset notion of what it should look like.
But it's the our fault.
Why is it our fault?
Because I mean, you brought the meeting we had Thursday night. You brought that costume that looked like a heritage dancer's costume. You had it there in the room. So, and when you talk, it sounds like the heritage dancer's costume.
But the prelude to that, and all the media was there when it was said. We brought that to show you what not to do.
Yes.
It was said immediately.
Oh, okay.
For all the press. You weren't there at that moment.
When I was said,
right. It was the very first thing that was pointed out. This is heritage dancers' costume. This is not what we want.
Right.
But okay, I'm not going to belabor the point, right? I'm not going to belabor the point, except to say that the long, flowing, full dress with the white petticoat and the printed skirt and the top with the blouse, you know, with
whether you want it short sleeve, long sleeve, whatever.
Tell me if that ain't something like the heritage dancer's costume.
That is.
But those are the pieces of clothing that were worn
way back.
It's like telling me it's like telling me my blouse. We're both wearing blouses. We're both wearing bottoms, but mine is different to hers.
Okay.
You know, so it's still different.
But the style is the same. the style is more or less the same with minor variations.
Minor variation.
Yeah,
perhaps.
minor variation.
Yes.
But the big question here is is that when Ms. Bradford, you talk about African people in the plantation era adapting the dress of the slave master, there are those who will say that you want us to continue in that style, in that design, and in that culture.
But I also said we don't want to remain in that slavery mentality, right? But this is the only form of dress that has come up through the years. When I was 7 years old, it was the first and only time I was in a troop. My mother allowed me to go in a troop for the school. And what we wore were the off-the-shoulder blouses with elastic and lace, short sleeve with lace and elastic. And a nice flowing skirt with tires, when you say layers, okay? And that came from what we knew. My grandmother used to wear, and grandmothers used to wear lots of cloth. Okay.
All the people.
My father's mother, she made her dresses out of like 7 yards of material, so they could be nice and full, and they were always down to the ankle. So that is what we are accustomed to wear. It's not because we want to remain in slavery. We absolutely don't. We have been freed many, many years ago. So we are not going to be remaining in slavery. But
that's what we know.
That's what we know, and that's what we are accustomed to.
Okay, I have to take a break, and we're going to come back and we're going to continue discussion about our national dress right after these words from our sponsors.
Spotlight is brought to you by CCT Global Communication, Data Pro, Orion Law, Clarence Thomas Limited, Virgin Island Motors, and Bolo's Wholesale Cash and Carry.
Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm here with Mrs. Brenda Letsomtai. She's the acting director of culture, and Mrs. Sheila Bradford. She is a member of the ad hoc committee on national dress and song. And we were talking about the national dress. We left off talking about the national dress, and it's an issue for me. It's an issue for me. And it's an issue for many Bivy Islanders who have learned about our history before slavery. And it appears to some of us, and I'm including myself and many others, because this is what I get on the street. I'm on the street all the time, that we only thinking as far back in our history as slavery. And while slavery was a historic experience for us, it was one of the most horrific experiences of our existence as a people and of the world generally. There's no other action of man towards man that could compare to the horrors of the transatlantic slave trade and the plantation era in the Western Hemisphere. And so some of us want to go back to a more glorious past, those times when we were the rulers and we had kingdoms and we made significant contributions to civilization, and what our clothing and our spirituality and what our culture was at that time, and the feeling that bringing that forward would have a greater psychological impact and self-esteem building impact on our young people in our community. And it seems like we're not interested in that.
Well, I have two things to say to that. I understand your position and your feeling. However, there are two issues that would be immediately pop to my mind. If we go back before the Virgin Islands, then we're no longer representing the Virgin Islands, because we're going back to Africa. We're not dealing with the Virgin Islands, we're dealing with Africa. My second question would be, whose, and you can correct my terminology, whose nation in Africa would be we representing when we came from different nations? So who are we going to choose and who are we going to leave out? If we're going to pick a dress from Africa, whose dress is it going to be? We're going to pick a top from here and a bottom from there? Or which nation, which set of people are we going to ask people to represent here? To me, we're losing the Virgin Islands experience, because what happened before the Virgin Islands happened elsewhere. And if we're representing the Virgin Islands, to me, it should reflect the Virgin Islands. Now, I do understand we adapted. We're very good at adaptation. We adapted. But the clothing that we are focusing on, at least what I've done in my research, is post-emancipation, what they wore. That is the image I have in my mind when I see that's what it is. So it's not actually what they wore during slavery, it's what they wore when they were freed. So that is our focus. I mean, I don't know if that was, maybe that was not communicated well, but if we're going to go beyond the Virgin Islands, then where are we going and who are we going to choose? Because then you have several. We all didn't come from one place. So to me, at that point, we entirely lose the object of getting something that represents Virgin Islanders.
And if I may add, when we, and that's exactly what you were thinking when we talked about the plantation era. But also remember that when the slaves were freed, they didn't necessarily go back in dress to what they wore before they came to the Virgin Islands. They continued with what they were wearing and what their masters were wearing. So even as freed slaves, when they dressed to go to church, or when they were, even as slaves, when they were allowed to go to church, that's how they dressed. But when they were freed, they didn't go back and say, I'm going to wear clothing from Senegal, or I'm going to wear the outfits that come from Kenya, or, you know, they wore what they knew or what they could afford. So maybe it was a situation that they couldn't afford the finery and so on. But at the same time, they took clothing from their masters and they made clothing for themselves. So if they really wanted to go back to their homeland in terms of dress, they would have developed those styles. They had the
opportunity to
They had the opportunity.
Well, you know, I mean, I don't know that they had the opportunity because, you know, they were enslaved for a couple of 100 years. And, you know, from generation to generation, you start to lose a lot of...
But slaves kept coming.
Yes, not only that.
Not over 200
Not only
years.
that, but they would have passed on to their children the customs that they left behind.
Well,
and if they didn't pass them on, then, you know.
You know, the history of the plantation era, though, was that slaves were not allowed to practice their culture, and they were not allowed...
But they could tell them.
They were not allowed to tell them. As a matter of fact, they used to be hined and quartered and padded and feathered for practicing or even whispering or doing anything that remotely spoke to their past. So over a generation of time, in order for the mother to protect the children, they stopped teaching them so that they wouldn't lose their children. The plantation experience is quite an interesting experience that perhaps we need to take a look at. But I think some of the questions arise that are we losing that part of ourselves that is in fact African, and have we just made that decision consciously? We haven't finished the question. Have we made that decision consciously to completely ignore our Africanness and just focus on the Virgin Islands, because the BVI lenders basically, with a few exceptions, have to go back through the Caribbean, and then they have to go back to Africa. So when you say the Virgin Islands, then you ignore your other Caribbean relationships.
This is where I was going to interrupt you.
Then you ignore your origin. So I'm wondering if there was some way that we could sort of make that blend of Virgin Islands, Caribbean, African roots, and tie that all in together as part of anything that we're doing.
Well, what would you say to, for instance, a country like Dominica? They use the Madras material, and they use the same, basically the same format, same design layout. All we are trying to do is to have our own design, so that when you see our outfit, you know that is BVI.
I would say the same thing to Dominica, by the way.
But it's still, to me, okay, take for example a country like France, that has, as you know, France has had a varied invasions, whatever, but they still focus on what is considered to be French culture. They don't say, well, we have a piece from Saxon over there, we have a piece from... They deal with, once they became a country, this is what represented us. Now, they do not discount, don't get me wrong, their history or where they came from. And I think perhaps that is where, because I think you have to teach it first before they can appreciate it. So until you teach it,
and I like that.
Can't appreciate it.
I like that point you're making there about France not discounting their European origin and their European Caucasian history.
You can't.
And we are not ashamed either.
But we seem to be, though.
No, we are not.
We seem to be discounting and ignoring our African history, our African culture.
But I said that, but we have to teach it. They teach theirs. We have to teach ours. So until it's
but that's your responsibility.
It's my responsibility?
Yeah, as a cultural officer.
Well, now I'm the acting director of culture. Yes.
Your responsibility. But let me give you an example. A dress, a cultural dress, could be not necessarily flowing, but it could have a nice shape, like an African shape, and a top could have a nice design that is a mixture of Caribbean and African. Now, when you limit the hair tie, for example, to a triangle, then all those beautiful head designs that you can have.
We're not limiting it to a triangle.
Okay.
We're not limiting it.
Because that's why
it can be a square.
That's what
it just said.
No, it says a head tie.
It just said a head tie.
Yeah, but I said that it traditionally was triangular.
Traditionally was a triangle.
But it can be anything that an individual designs.
That's why I asked.
I said that earlier.
That's why I asked if it could be a high head piece or a low head piece, because you would need more material, and that's not necessarily triangular to accomplish a higher head piece. So I am hoping to broaden the parameters of the submission.
But when our grandparents tied their head, it wasn't necessarily just a triangle, They used a rectangular piece of material. And they folded it accordingly, and they covered as much of the head as possible.
Yeah, and that is not.
And then they put on their straw hat.
And by the way, that is not a European tradition. That is African tradition.
Yes,
that's African.
It is African.
The hair tie is an African tradition. Yeah. Anyhow, but I just wanted to throw that. In the mix.
No problem.
Now, the national song.
The national song. What would you like to know?
Let me say to the viewing audience that the phone number is going to come up on the screen any moment, and we'd be happy for you to call and make a comment, ask a question, get clarification, and be part of the discussion about the national dress and the national song that we are having a competition to develop, and to instill pride and self-esteem in ourselves and in our young people. The national song. The national song, is there a lyrical guideline?
Oh yes, lyrical guideline. Let's see. We want words to reflect BVI heritage and culture. And when we say this, we want words that when the words are descriptive, you know that description is of the Virgin Islands. It's not of St. Thomas, it's not of Dominica, you're in the Virgin Islands. We want the words to incite pride. When you hear them, just reading the words only, you, a BVI Islander, feel proud that this is about your country, and encouraging you to aspire to better and greater. Not forgetting where we came from, but looking towards the future of who we can be and who we can become as a people.
So we're talking, or we're singing, or we are writing about the beauty of the Virgin Islands, for example.
The physical beauty, the spiritual beauty, the intellectual property, the people.
Okay. So when you say the spiritual beauty,
maybe even some of the experiences of our forefathers.
Okay. When you say the spiritual beauty, that's interesting. What do you mean by the spiritual beauty?
The spiritual beauty is what do we feel about our Virgin Islands? I look at this as spiritual beauty because I get inspired every day driving back and forth from work. I commune with the trees and the beach and the islands and everything else. That to me, that's a spirituality that makes up our territory. So for me, that's what that means. And we're looking at, as I said, words that would encourage the BVI Islander to aspire to be the best they can be, to really move a territory forward, to see us in the future as a glowing community. I mean, as Dr. Whitley mentioned the other night in the meeting, and you missed this, he said when the first note or the first words, you get goosebumps. This is your country as you're singing about.
Let's go to the phone. Thank you very much for calling Spotlight. Go right ahead, please.
Good evening.
Good evening. You're on Spotlight. Speak.
Okay. In my elementary history, we are told something about triangular thread.
Hello, Carla. Do me a favor, please. Turn your television down, off, or move out of that room and speak directly into your telephone because we're getting a favor.
No, sir. I've turned it down.
All right. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I said during my elementary history we are taught about triangular thread, and that represented how the slaves were moved. Because the slaves came from Africa, but not every part of Africa was involved, because there wasn't too much road as of those days. These countries involved were countries by the coast. So if guys want to look to tradition they will emanate from, I would advise, look at West Africa was the nearest point, and that's where most of the slaves came.
All right, Carla.
Yep.
Because of your accent, we are having tremendous difficulty understanding you here. But I'm hoping, and I'm interested in what you're saying. And if you can send me a text, if you could send me a text, I think that would be very helpful.
Okay.
All right, thank you, my brother.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. When you said spiritual, right? What came to my mind was the way our behavior, like how we used to say good morning, how we looked out for each other,
I would call that morals.
How we shared,
that's spiritual.
How we shared what we had. You know, if you need a cup of flour, and I had a cup,
you might have thought of that the other day.
Of flour.
Your neighbor helped you.
Yes, you know, you were building your house. We would come by and you would cook up some food, and
a village still raised a child.
And you think that a little bit of licks your grandfather put on me. So, you know, so when you say that's what comes to mind.
That also,
both
of them
part of it.
That's part of it, and I think we need to somehow express that, because that's one of the goals of the Department of Culture, is to reintroduce the community to that.
Okay, we gotta take a break, but I want to read this text before I go to the break.
Okay.
And it just simply says, "You need to just shut up." So I suspect that they're talking to me. I need to just shut up.
Oh my.
But that's how it is. That's how life is in the BVI. We're gonna be right back with more of our discussion on our national dress and national song right after these words from our sponsors. Don't forget the phone lines are open. You can text us or you can call us. We'll be happy to hear from you. Keep it locked right here to Spotlight. We'll be right back.
This program is sponsored by the law firm of J.S. Archibald & Co. and by the trust company J.S. Archibald Trust Services Limited, both of Roadtown, Tortola, BVI.
Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm Edjuenka, and I'm here with the Acting Director of Culture, Mrs. Brenda Letsamtai, and the member of the Ad Hoc Committee on Song and National Song and National Dress, Mrs. Sheila Brathwaite. And we're talking about the National Song and National Dress competition that is about to end at the end of the month. And we need to have your submissions. And we're talking about the parameters, the guidelines of the national dress. We spoke about that earlier, and now we're talking about the national song. And we left off talking about the spirit of the song and the beauty. Okay, go ahead.
We just forgot to tell you that the dress has to be ankle length. So the petticoat would be at your ankles, and then the skirt would be 9 to 12 inches above that. So it will fall probably just below your knee. The skirt would fall just below your knee.
That sounds sexy. God.
It will look sexy.
Isn't it true that back in the day, to see a woman's petticoat was a big deal?
Oh, yes.
It was a very big deal.
Very
it was a big deal, right?
Yes.
So it's like a little risky to have a petticoat hanging up. You say petticoat hanging.
That's true.
You say petticoat hanging.
Yes.
And your mother will say, girl, pull up your slip. Anyhow. Yeah, but it has to be down around your ankle length.
Yes.
The skirt has to be ankle length.
Yes.
And
the petticoat, and then the skirt is above that.
And the blouse, it has to come around your waist or just above the hips.
The blouse,
where is that?
You can design it to fit over the skirt or to put inside the skirt. Yes.
Okay. Your favorite thing to talk about, the national song. So we're talking about the guidelines for the national song, the lyrical guidelines.
Yes, yes.
And we left off talking about the spirit of the song.
The spirit, how the song should make you feel as a Virgin Island. It should make you feel pride. It should invoke pride and invoke hope for the future, and
remind you of your past.
Remind you of your past. Instill pride and give you hope for what is to come, a better Virgin Islands.
Okay, I just got another text and a phone. Okay, let's go to the phone. Thank you very much for calling Spotlight. Go right ahead, please. Go right ahead, please, on Spotlight.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, my sister.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm one of those persons when I first learned of the competition, got very excited. Still haven't put pen to paper yet, but got very excited about it. But then when I got the details and the parameters of the dress, for example, I felt very boxed in and restricted somewhat. Going back to the discussion you had earlier about this perception of the heritage dancers look, it just sounds to me, the description of what we're looking for is so much close to the heritage dancers look that it sort of boxes you in somewhat. For example, in terms of the headdress, what if I wanted to design a dress with a straw hat, for example, with a
ribbon around it, for example. Are you saying that that is not what we're looking for? It wouldn't be acceptable, or I'm boxed into this head wrap? Or let's say I wanted to do a dress maybe out of a cook-up bag, for example. You're saying I have to be restricted to this bold background with a specific image on it. Anyway, this is a bit restrictive. So for me, I was really thinking originally, really out of the box, and really coming up with a design that you definitely, when you see it, it would say BVI, and it would still have the elements of Virgin Islands culture. And to me, that can be so many different designs other than what we're presenting as the guidelines. Also, I was also curious about, we've never had this dress before, cultural dress is what you're saying, and I was curious about how we're going to portray this dress in the future. If we limit it to a design, for example, let's say a particular bird or flower on the dress, is this material going to be something that's going to be made available all the time? Is that something that people would have to make the dress out of this cloth, this particular cloth, or just some clarity on those points?
Well, thank you very much.
If I have a further question, I'll call back.
Great. Excellent questions.
Okay, we did say that once a design is approved, and there's a process that it has to go through, but once it's approved, then that design would be stenciled onto fabric. The fabric would be, the cloth, the material would be made, right? And then it would be available all the time.
Okay.
It would be available in local stores all the time. Okay, so you wouldn't have to worry about
availability.
Right, availability.
Okay.
And then in terms of the straw hat, we did say that some people wore straw hat, but in the committee we had discussed the possibility of having a straw hat as part of the headgear.
Okay.
So if she wants to submit a straw hat as part of her headgear,
that's fine. Thank you for calling Spotlight. Go right ahead, please.
Good evening, Juanka, Cromwell, whatever is going tonight. She laughed. I would like the last person who called and said about it is sort of close to the Heritage Dance of Costume. I would like to defend the Heritage Dance of Costume because it was taken from a book written by a man, C.E. Taylor, who was writing years ago before our time on Virgin Gorda. And in the book, he had a woodcut that said, this is how the emancipated slave dressed after emancipation. The skirt and the petticoats were like how Mrs. Brackett and Mrs. Letsampai described. The blouse was up to the neck with what we later learned was called muscle sleeves or muscle leg sleeves, down to the not the elbow here, even though now when you care, down to your wrist. And since I was the person making the Heritage Dance of Costume, I decided there was no way we could dance and dance the kind of dances we were doing with a blouse like that. So we modified it off of what people, I had seen people in Puerto Rico when I went to school there for dressmaking, what they call the peasant blouse that could be worn off the shoulder because our ancestors would not have showed so much skin off the shoulder. So we just modified what was in C.E. Taylor. But what we took was what was described as the dress of our ancestors, of the emancipated slaves. And I would like to speak quickly too about, not coming up with our African heritage. There is no way, Cromwell, there is no way that any of us can say we were from the Guinea Coast, we were from Liberia, we were from Sierra Leone, we were from Ghana, because we didn't know. And who is supposed to tell me that when my ancestors were in Africa, my paternal ancestor wasn't wearing a loincloth, and my maternal ancestor wasn't going barefoot, running through the jungle before they were captured, and came to the West Indies or American South or wherever, down Brazil, and they were made to wear clothes. We were affiliated people, and just to finish, I have been to several, and I quote several African countries, and you will be surprised night, you would see them in what I would say was their tribal dress or their African colors and that sort of thing. And some of the things I see women wearing here, such African things, this bundle of cloth wool up, they don't know how to wool it up, but they wool it anyhow and saying they're sporting their ancestry. We do not, Cromwell, I don't think there's anybody here can trace their genealogy past their great-grandmother. They can't go great for the records do not exist. Anyway, I would like people to send in whatever design they think is suitable that saves us to the committee, and then we don't know. They might not send a head tie, they might send a lovely straw hat with a ribbon, and it will be chosen. We are trying to find something. We're not telling you what to do. We're just giving you guidelines and colors and so forth. And you give us something that is feisty and spirited that says this is Anegada to Josen Dix. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that call. I don't have time. And I don't want to take up the show to correct many of the misinformation that the last caller has just put forward. But certainly, any study of our history will tell us where we came from in a general location and what the culture was pre-slavery, pre-colonialism, pre-European invasion, and we certainly, if we are interested, the whole world now is replete with history books of African history and culture and our relationship to it. But I ain't got time. But that's another issue. But it's just a sad thing. Yes, my sister, go ahead.
Okay, I think I need to move my song agenda along.
Move your song agenda along.
I'm just looking. Any musical guidelines?
Well, yeah, okay, so we talk about the lyrics. We talk about the lyrics.
Yes.
Musical guidelines, yes.
Well, the music of any national anthem, those in African militaristic mostly, but any national anthem is...
You're making a broad general statement.
I understand that, right. But the ones I've heard...
Okay.
They are stately.
Which are post-colonial. Right.
But they haven't changed them.
Go ahead. Anyhow, go ahead. They are stately. I mean, that's the word I would use. I know Dr. Whitley spent quite a bit of time last meeting trying to explain to the audience what that means. And looking at other Caribbean islands, there was a discussion about whether they should be calypso or reggae. A dance tune is not a national anthem.
It's not appropriate.
It's not appropriate.
So we are looking for a national anthem. We're not looking for just a national anthem.
Because
we already have a national anthem.
When I say national anthem, and I found this in here, that the national anthem, when you're territory, it's obviously God Save the Queen.
Right.
But your national song, a territorial song, becomes your version of the national anthem with as much fervor and dignity as the national anthem. So that is the caliber of song we're looking for. This is what this song is supposed to do. So when the governor gets the national anthem, our premier gets our national song, essentially.
Oh, okay.
Are you understanding me now?
Yes, I got you.
So that is the level we're looking at. Okay. So this song that is going to be chosen will be for posterity. It's not like it's in favor today and next year, next 2 years, when that kind of music goes out of style, you no longer wish to sing it or wish to present it. This will become the territorial national song until. Okay? Whoever writes this song, whoever wins this song is going to be famous until. Because I went through the Caribbean and pulled up their national songs. Every last one of them said who wrote that song, the lyrics, and who wrote the music. It comes part and parcel with the music.
Okay. Now, do you have to submit, since you mentioned that, do you have to submit lyrics and music? Or can you just
let me clarify.
Lyrics
what is
music?
Being judged initially, which is the most important part, is the lyrics. Because it's the lyrics that's going to inspire. Okay? Once the lyrics are chosen, if the author did not present the music with it, those lyrics will be put to music. You understand what I'm saying? So if I already have at least 2 entries that are complete. I have lyrics and I have music. I have the whole package. You don't have to, because as was discussed earlier, not everyone is a musician. But you may be a beautiful lyricist or poet or writer who writes the inspiring words for our national song, whereas someone else can bring along the music. So we're encouraging persons, if you're a writer and that's what you do, please send in your lyrics. If you're a musician and you can do lyrics and song and music and that's what you want to do, by all means send it forward. Because should you win and you fall within the genre I described, we won't have to go find someone to put music to your song because you would have done so yourself.
Yeah. One of the questions that was raised was whether, for example, one person could conceivably win the music and another person win the lyrics, and so that you might find that you find a music melody that you like, but you don't like that lyric, but then you have over here another lyric that you like, and the combination of this
that can actually be matched
could be married to form.
What will have to happen then is that the lyricist and the musician will have to concur that they want their pieces to go together.
Okay. But if the judges decide,
but we're not judging the music.
Oh, you're not judging music at all. You're not judging music at all.
We keep saying we're
just
judging
the lyrics.
We keep saying we're judging the lyrics. So if the music is there, I'm saying if the music is already there and it's appropriate with the lyrics, you don't have to get somebody to put music to the lyrics.
So the winner will be
the lyricist.
The lyricist.
Yes.
Okay, so then then there's no point in submitting the music then.
But they can.
But they can. Some people already have, because that's the way they work.
Oh, okay.
They don't separate the lyrics from the music.
But I think it's clarified now, because I was under the impression that
no, not at all. That was also said last evening before you came. Okay. That we were judging the lyrics, because you can't penalize a writer who's not a musician because they cannot present the complete package.
So the lyric is the criteria by which the national song will be judged.
Yes.
And it will be put to music unless someone submits music that's acceptable.
Thank you. Yes.
And the lyrics should be 2 to 3 verses.
Yes. 2 to 3 verses long. In length.
Okay, we're going to talk some more about the song when we come back. We're going to take another break, and phone lines are open. You could call, and you could, I think I have a text I'm going to read when I come back. You can call, and whatever you say, whether you say good things about me or bad things about me, I'm going to read it. So you can, there's an opportunity to bash me if you like. So call us and text us and make your comments and make your contribution to the discussion and to the competition. We'll be right back with more Spotlight after these words from our sponsors. Keep it locked right here.
Spotlight is brought to you by the National Bank of the Virgin Islands, Tortola Concrete Limited, Orion Law, Clarence Thomas Limited, Virgin Island Motors, and Bolo's Wholesale Cash and Carry.
Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm here with my 2 beautiful sisters, Brenda Ledsomtai, she's the acting director of culture, who just joined us, and Mrs. Brathwaite, Miss Sheila Brathwaite. She's a member of the ad hoc committee on national dress and national song. We're developing a national dress and a national song.
Territorial.
Oh, that's right. I guess we're not politically a nation.
Yes, we're not a nation. Yes.
But that's an aspiring thought.
Yeah. Well,
well, I don't know.
Someday.
It doesn't seem like we want to be a nation. But that's another issue again.
Yes.
But we're talking about our territorial song and our territorial dress, and the numbers to call us are on the screen, and the text number is there as well, and we really like to hear from you, your comments, your questions, your criticisms, your encouragement. All those things are helpful. Yeah, so we're talking about the song. It's got to be 3 verses long, well, at least no more than three verses long. And you don't have to. You can submit lyrics if you want, but you don't have to. It's going to be judged by. You can submit music if you want, but you don't have to. It's going to be judged by the lyrics.
Yes.
Right? And what format the submission is to take?
Well, if, for example, I have one submission thus far that sent the lyrics and then also sent a completed CD of the song set to music.
Okay.
For every submission, lyrics must be a part of it. Write out the words and send it to us.
Okay, so you want the words, if you want to set it to music and you want to sing it and play it, that's fine.
That's fine.
Put it on a CD. But you have to have a sheet of paper with written lyrics.
Please send us what you want to express. Don't have us listen and try to decipher it. Okay. Write it down and send it in.
Okay. So that's cool. So a CD of the music if you want, but you must have a written submission of the lyrics.
And I must say, all submissions, including music and dress, must have the name of the applicant, the gender, age, and contact information. That's all we require. These are to be submitted to the Department of Culture, which is located on the second floor of the Wards building in Rotan between 9 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. Monday through Friday in a sealed envelope marked confidential, please. And for more information, you can contact the Department of Culture at 468-4373.
And your deadline?
The deadline, absolute deadline, is the 30th of March. 2012.
Okay. I have no more questions. That's all the questions in one shot. Right? Yeah, we got them. I'm just joking. Okay. So you got the submissions, where to send them?
Department of Culture, second floor, Wards building in Rotan between 9 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. Monday through Friday.
And we have the contact information.
468-4373.
And the person's name that they ask for? Any person that asks for the phone.
Yeah.
Okay. And
perhaps they should put on the envelope that it's for the Territorial song or dress competition.
Yes.
You know.
They have.
And the deadline,
they have been doing that.
And the deadline is
the 30th of March. This competition started on the 1st of February. And information went out very early. From in January. That the competition will be starting on the 1st of February and ending on the 30th of March. And we're basically just following up and giving people more information and encouraging them to really, put your creative skills out there. We don't have any preconceived notions. We want you to submit. There are 2 panels of judges. There's a panel of judges for the dress, and there's a panel of judges for the song. 2 separate panels.
And you, though the guidelines might sound narrow, you still can,
use your own creativity and juices. Let them flow.
The young lady with the hat especially. If you want to create a national dress with a straw hat, create a national dress with a straw hat.
Yeah, because we talked about having an industry with using straw. Reviving that industry. So it's quite within.
And a lot of instances, economics is born out of culture.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I mean, how many houses, how many plots of land were bought out of those bottles?
Yes.
The perfume
bottles. The straw work done there.
Thank you for calling Spotlight. Go right ahead, please. Your Spotlight, speak, please.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Coleman and the panel. I just want to quickly make a comment to say that I think that it's a really great idea that we have a national song. I think it creates patriotism. I hope all the school kids are made to learn it, from primary and secondary, and it really brings a country together and bonds them. So I'm so happy to hear that you guys are doing that. I just want to say congratulations. Keep a great job. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
And if I might just add, in terms of the dress, we expect that once the dress is selected, that it would be worn to various functions.
Yes.
You know, if you have a dignitary visiting, then, you know, the national dress would be worn. If the heritage dancers, I'm sure they would get their yes. And all the children in the schools and so on, when they're, you know, performing and so on.
Because I also heard it referred to as a national costume. Or territorial costume.
You see, the national, those words are actually interchangeable in the literature, but it's actually the national dress or the national costume is exactly the same thing. It's been called both in the literature, but it's still the official dress.
It's not something that you would wear every day. It's something that you take out on. It's a ceremonial dress.
In fact, you can have a formal one.
You can have a formal dress.
You can have a formal one, and you can have one for everyday purposes.
This is how I sort of look at the territorial dress. I'm not finished with the song, but I have to say this. Once that fabric becomes the official fabric representing the territorial dress, if you want to buy the fabric and put up your curtains on Territory Day, by all means, because that represents us.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? So it's not, to me, it's not limited to just the costume. Because, I mean, when you go to, I'll take Dominica for instance, for their Creole Fest, everybody and everything is in their madras. And it's the fabric that represents their
not necessarily the style.
Not the style,
but the fabric.
You see all styles on the street. But with our, the what do you call the ceremonial dress will be this, but the fabric will become the symbol
of the territory.
Of the territory.
Okay, we got you.
You with me?
I'm with you.
Okay, can I talk about something that came up the other day in our meeting?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that. I just wanted to say, okay, this is good night. I think we need a territorial flag that represents the Virgin Islands, not Britain. There is no pride in waving the present flag of our former slave masters. Okay, that's an opinion. Copy West African tradition, because that is where most of the slaves come from.
It must be your guy.
So okay, so that could be the color that we couldn't understand.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so that's that before. Okay.
In terms of the judges.
Yes, the judges. How was the criteria, and how would the judges judge, and in what context are they judging in? How is that going to work?
The judges will be given the criteria, the guidelines that we have. And these are only guidelines, right? We are looking for something that represents the territory, and of course, you know, our history and culture. We will select a panel of judges. The committee will select a panel of judges, and then they will do the judging, and then that's for the dress and for the song, and of course, they will be judging the lyrics of the song.
Okay, so they'll be judging the lyrics, not the music. And
it's two, as Brenda said earlier, it's two separate panels of judging.
Yes.
And then somebody else will be judging, the dress will be judged on a different set of criteria.
Right,
of course,
and the song. Right?
So once the judges have returned with their top two, immediately we will photograph the designs. We will put the lyrics on. If there's music already to the lyrics, we will put those on as well. We're going to have an online survey for the public. They have 1 week to tell us.
So we get the way
all about it.
Get the way in. That's good.
So the top two will be online for 1 week.
And you make a selection.
You say how you feel about it.
We make a recommendation to cabinet, to the minister, and he takes it to cabinet.
Taking the judges
and the public opinion, we make a recommendation to cabinet, who then makes the final decision.
Yes.
Yeah, that take you all out of it right here, right? It has been over a month since the competition was launched. Can you say that this is a popular competition based on a number of submissions so far? Will the department share the submissions with the public?
Well, we just said that last part.
That question.
Yeah. So
has there been a popular competition so far?
Yeah.
I have had a lot of calls, I would say, a lot of interest. I've had people call the department seeking information. Now, To me, it's almost easier, and I may be wrong, but for the persons who wants to fabricate, it would take them a little longer to get it together. So I'm not surprised I'm not getting stuff like that in every day, because that takes time to put together. Lyrics flow, you edit, you move, but that tends to move along a bit faster. So right now my submissions received thus far in this song competition outnumber the dress. However, I envision that that's going to catch up, because based on the interest that I've had, you know, people wanted the parameters defined more clearly. They've called the department, they've emailed, so the information's out there. So I have definite interest. So I expect that in the next 2 weeks leading up to the deadline, we will start receiving more submissions.
Yeah, I'm aware that Mrs. Parsons had a lot of questions. I also had a few questions. So people are asking so that they can be sure, so that when they submit, you know, this is my final product. You know, they don't want to rush things. You know. Making sure they have all the information.
So you absolutely won't extend the deadline?
No.
No, because we want to be able to be ready for August Festival.
Okay.
And we also have the athletes coming up. The athletes that are going to be representing us in London. We want to be ready for them as well.
Okay, cool. Something else get me to ask, enough forget. What are the prizes?
Oh, prizes.
What are the prizes?
We do have prizes. Even in these dire economic times, we have managed some prizes.
And before you call the prizes, can I just say to the public that these prizes may not be extravagant, remembering that we are in economic times and so on. But look at it as your contribution to your territory. And remember,
don't worry too much about the price.
Don't worry too much about the money. Remember that out of that, if you win the first prize or even second prize or whatever, your name is going to be out there. And people are going to come to you. You have a talent, and people are going to come to you. So you may even be able to start your own business if you haven't already got one.
But suddenly you'll have a legacy.
So you'll have a legacy to live on.
And your grandchildren will say,
exactly.
My grandfather wrote the national song, and which is a proud
and my mom designed the national dress and stuff like that.
Or my dad designed the national dress.
Oh, the dad.
Don't be
yeah, they're men too, yes.
Of course. My dad designed the national dress. No, I think we need to look at it more as as you say, almost like a nationalistic contribution to the territory. You know, this is my contribution to the I was going to say upliftment, but I don't like that word. This is my contribution to uplifting the young people and the territory.
And to preserving our culture.
The development of a sense of national pride. The development of a sense of national pride.
Totally.
You like that better?
Yes.
Development of a sense of national pride.
Yes. All right, Cromwell.
Cool. We're having a good time. So, but we still want about the prizes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay, we have consolation prizes. I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. Fifth, we have $100. Fourth, $250. Third, $500. And then, of course, second place, $750. And the grand prize, first place, $1,000. And this is for each category. Yes. We're not dividing it in two. It's for each category.
Lord have mercy. We've had a song that's been used as the national song, and it's written by Ayana Hull and Kareem Hull, and it's been played a lot. You know, that's going to be considered, the lyrics of that song is going to be considered as part of the competition. But hold on a second, let me see what this caller got to say. Thank you very much for calling Spotlight. Go ahead, please. Thank you for calling Spotlight. Caller? All right.
Okay. It is my understanding from the persons who used that song that it was never really intended to be used as a national song.
Okay.
It was used as a rallying cry, so to speak, for the party that promoted it. So it was their rallying song rather than a national song. However, it has been resubmitted into the current competition.
Okay, cool. That's a good answer. All right. So now at the meeting, you had some some brothers and sisters there who are in the music industry and want to know if you are gonna pay them royalties for their national song, or you just gonna pocket all the accolades and the money.
And if
I have done my research on copyrights of the national song, and I would like to share.
Just hold on a second. Thank you for calling Spotlight. Go right ahead, please. Speak.
Okay, I didn't listen to the shape of party, but exactly what you're looking for in a country song.
Exactly what we're looking for in the country song?
Yeah, like what kind of lyrics or whatever.
You want to go over that briefly?
Okay,
please. Hang up and listen.
The reason why I asked is because the guy from Guatemala, the guy Mark or something like that, he sang a very good song about the country, speaking about all the islands and so on. So if it's something that you're looking for that to represent us, that's why I have the question.
All right. Thanks a lot for that call. Has that been submitted?
Thank you for your opinion, but it has not been submitted. Okay. This is a competition. Whatever is to be judged has to be submitted within the deadline.
If Mr. Mack wants to submit that song,
Mr. Mack wants to submit that song,
welcome to submit
Mr. Mack, there's Maurice Mack, and there are two different Marks. I
think it's Maurice Mack.
I have something from, not Maurice, from his father. That's been submitted, I think.
Maurice is the father.
Maurice is the father?
Yeah.
It's not Maurice, it's somebody else.
Okay.
Anyway.
Tino is the $1 son, and there was another son.
Anyway, I do have a submission from the Marks.
All right, cool. So let's get to the copyright. Let's go to the copyright
all right.
information.
There is a Copyright Act 1956 and the Copyright Virgin Islands Order 1962, which deals with copyrighting of literacy, dramatic, musical, or artistic work. Section 39 of the Act provides that where original literary, dramatic, musical, or artistic work is made under the direction or control of Her Majesty, the Crown, or a government department, Her Majesty would be entitled to the copywriting of the said work.
Okay, so once you submit it to the department or to the government, you lose your entitlement to copyright.
Okay, it must be.
That's what that means.
That's what that means.
Okay.
Because we are the ones doing the competition, so it comes to us, we have the right to own it.
Okay.
But it must be noted that the government's entitlement to the copywriting of the work is subject to any agreement which may be made between the author of the work or the maker of any sound recordings, whereby it is agreed between the parties that the copyright in the work would vest in the author or maker of the same.
So when I send in the song, I would have to say, listen, I'm sending the song in, but if you choose it, you only could use it if
we have an agreement. Yes.
Is that a possibility? Something like that?
It is therefore recommended that as a safeguard, all participants in the National Song Contest are made aware that the Department of Culture retains copyright to the materials produced in relation to the contest.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
I'm clear so far?
I think so.
Okay. All right. Further, on final determination of the winning song, it is also recommended that written agreements be executed between the Department of Culture and the winning party, confirming that the copyrights in the works is vested in the Department of Culture.
Okay, so you're not giving other copyrights. That's what that means. That
essentially.
Yeah. So whatever the agreement is going to be, it is going to be that the government owns the copyright.
So I think, and I did call around the Caribbean, and this is the way it's done. When you enter a competition on this scale and you hand it into a government, they own what you send in, to the point that we were thinking of only maybe the winning song, to the point that all the entries are held by the government.
All the submissions.
All the submissions are held, which I thought was interesting, because dependent on the amount of submissions, that's quite a bit of work that the government will be holding. So that is the norm.
Okay. And you're going to publish a whole CD and go platinum.
I would love...
Go platinum, and we could use that money to help with our national budget.
I think what we will do, is I hope to publish at least the top 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
In each category, to let the public know, okay, these were the top 2, this is the winner, but these were the top 5 in each category.
Well, that's an idea.
Yeah.
Well, Mrs. Brenda sometime, Ms. Sheila Bradford, I want to thank you both for being on Spotlight. I can allow you 30 seconds each if there's something else you need to say. I think we clarified most things. Right? So, I don't know.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for having me on Spotlight. I want to thank the Minister, Honorable Myron Walwyn, for asking me to serve on this ad hoc committee. And I want to encourage members of the public to send in their items, send them in relatively early. Don't wait till the last day, because you know some things can happen at an office. So send in your entries, and I am really hoping that you will have quite a few entries so that we can have a good selection, and the judges can have something significant to do.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I am also imploring the general public to get your creative hats out there, your songs, your drawings, your samples. We look forward to them all. Be as creative as you can be, and I think we cannot underscore enough the importance of what having our own national territorial song and dress can do for developing national pride within our beautiful Virgin Islands.
But thank you all very much again for being my guest. I really enjoyed the program, and I really enjoyed having you here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Next week, the Spotlight will be on pension plans. Yes, pension plans. You know, the Labor Code says that each business requires a pension plan for its employees. How do you set up a pension plan? Can you afford one as a small employee? Can you pool your resources with other companies? I'm going to have an expert in pension plans and other financial matters with me next week to answer all of these questions, all your financial concerns and your pension plan concerns, particularly as it relates to the new Labor Code. So be sure to be here with the Spotlight on JTV Channel 55, Tuesdays at 8 p.m. live, and Sundays at the new time, 2:30 in the afternoon. And you can catch Spotlight, all the old Spotlights, this Spotlight, if you miss any part of it, on jtvlive.net. So you could always catch us and catch up on the Spotlights you miss and a little bit of information that you didn't get, particularly in this Spotlight, so you could submit your entry with the right parameters and the right guidelines. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for your words of encouragement. Continue to email us at jtvspotlight@yahoo.com. I'm Edjuenka, reminding you that when the Spotlight is on, you see the facts. Peace and blessings.
This program is sponsored by the law firm of J.S. Archibald & Co. and by the trust company J.S. Archibald Trust Services Limited, both of Roadtown, Tortola, BVI.